Visible. If you've ever ached to be noticed, maybe you'll understand. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. The darkest truths are the ones we whisper to ourselves. And this one changed everything. I used to be the kind of woman who laughed at small things. Spilled flour on the counter. Burnt toast. The dog tracking muddy prints through the hallway. I used to find joy in the mess of it all. Now, most days, I clean in silence. The house is too big, too quiet. Every room a museum piece no one touches. My husband's there, but not really. He comes home late, eats alone, stares at his phone, disappears into the office. I used to wait up for him. Now, I just turn off the lights. You don't notice when the distance begins. You blink, and the man you loved is sitting across the dinner table like a stranger. Conversation turns to polite questions about bills and errands. No more glances. No more lingering touches. Just space. I told myself it was normal. That life gets busy. That love changes. But deep down I knew, when someone stops seeing you, it hurts in ways you can't explain. And then, David moved in. My stepson. 21. His mother had just passed. Cancer. Quick, cruel. My husband barely mentioned it. He offered David a room like a man offering a handshake. No warmth. No welcome. David arrived with 2 suitcases and a hollow look in his eyes. Grief clung to him like a second skin. I remember standing at the doorway, watching him step inside, taller than I remembered, quieter too. I reached out, touched his shoulder. He flinched. I whispered, "You're home now." At first, he barely spoke. He spent hours alone in his room, headphones in, curtains drawn. But slowly, cracks appeared. A soft thank you when I left meals by his door. A glance toward me when I folded his laundry. One morning, he came down early and offered to help with breakfast. I hadn't realized how starved I was for company, for conversation, for someone to simply look at me. My husband noticed none of it. He was always rushing out, locked in meetings, chasing numbers. I stopped chasing him long ago. David was different. There was a softness in him, a quiet kindness. He started sitting with me during meals, asking about my day, helping in the kitchen. Nothing much, but in a house of ghosts, even a flicker of life felt blinding. I told myself he was just a boy, my stepson, that I was offering comfort, nothing more. But loneliness bends truths in ways you don't see until it's too late. One afternoon, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Faded, tired. But when David looked at me, it wasn't through the eyes of someone who saw an aging woman. It was as though, for a moment, I was visible again. And I hated how much I needed that. I began to wait for him, listening for his footsteps, looking for reasons to linger. I told myself it was harmless, that he needed me, that I needed to be needed. And that is where it begins, isn't it? Not with some grand betrayal, not with a kiss, but with a longing so quiet you almost mistake it for care. I wish I could tell you I saw what was coming, that I stopped it. But when you are starving, you take what crumbs the world gives you, even if they cost more than you can bear. It happened on a Saturday. Quiet. The kind of day that stretches long and empty. My husband was away, another business trip, another excuse. The house hummed with silence. I wandered into the kitchen. I bake when I don't know what else to do. Kneading, mixing. The rhythm calms my mind. Flour dusted the counters. Vanilla hung in the air. I lost track of time, hands busy, heart heavier than I cared to admit. Then, footsteps. Soft, hesitant. I turned, and there was David, standing in the doorway, hair tousled, eyes shadowed with something I understood too well. "Smells good," he said, voice rough with sleep, or maybe something else. "I'm making a cake," I replied, trying to sound casual, normal, whatever that meant anymore. He lingered. I should have told him to go rest, to give me space. But instead, I found myself welcoming the company. craving it. He moved closer, watching as I whipped the frosting. His gaze wasn't heavy, just curious. Innocent enough. We started talking about nothing, really. Music, movies, the weather. But soon, small talk melted into something warmer. I laughed. Really laughed. The sound startled me. It had been so long since it came so easily. David smiled. "It's nice hearing you laugh," he said softly. My hands stilled. My throat tightened. I looked at him, really looked. The boy who'd arrived hollow and grieving, now watching me with eyes that saw more than they should. And then, the moment. Without thinking, I dipped the spoon into the frosting, held it out toward him. "Would you like to taste it?" The words slipped out before I could catch them. For a heartbeat, he hesitated. His eyes flickered, surprised, unsure. But then, slowly, deliberately, he leaned in. His lips touched the spoon I held. Soft, careful. But his gaze never left mine. In that second, everything shifted. The air thickened, warm and electric. My heart pounded in places it shouldn't. I swallowed hard, hands trembling ever so slightly. I should have looked away. I should have laughed it off. But I didn't. I couldn't. I stood there, caught in a moment I didn't understand, didn't trust, didn't want to end. He stepped back first. Eyes lowered. A flush crept up his neck. "It's good," he whispered, voice rough. I nodded. I couldn't speak. My pulse roared in my ears. When he left the room, the air felt colder. I stood there, staring at the empty doorway, spoon still in hand. My fingers ached from how tightly I gripped it. I told myself it was nothing. An innocent moment. But deep down, I knew better. Something had cracked open. Something I wasn't ready to face. After that day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The way his eyes held mine. The heat that bloomed between us. The softness of that small moment. How something so simple could leave such a deep mark. I told myself it was harmless. That it meant nothing. He needed comfort. I needed something. Anything. Just a connection. Just to feel alive again. But the more I told myself it was nothing, the more it consumed me. I'd replay it at night, lying in bed beside a man who no longer reached for me. My husband's breath steady in sleep. My own chest tight, restless. And in the dark, I'd see David's eyes. Hear the tremble in his voice. Feel the weight of the air in that kitchen all over again. The next morning, I lingered over my reflection. Brushed my hair longer than usual. Chose softer fabrics. A touch of color on my lips, not much, just enough. I told myself it was for me. That I deserved to feel good again. But a small voice whispered. I knew who I wanted to notice. I began finding reasons to be near him. Folding laundry when he was downstairs. Preparing dinner earlier, so he'd wander into the kitchen. Leaving the radio on low in the living room, hoping he'd sit nearby. Every glance he gave me was a spark. Every smile a balm on wounds I'd buried so deep. But with each passing day, the lines blurred further. I wasn't blind. I knew what I was doing. Knew the ache growing inside me wasn't motherly, wasn't innocent. And yet, I couldn't stop. I'd catch him watching me sometimes. His gaze would flick away quickly, cheeks flushed. It should have been a warning. It should have made me pull back. Instead, it pulled me in deeper. At night, the mirror became my worst enemy. I'd stand there after everyone slept, staring at the woman I was becoming. A woman who craved the gaze of her stepson. A woman who dressed for moments that should never happen. A woman who told herself lies, just to make it through the day. I hated her. I pitied her. But most of all, I understood her. Because when you are starving for love, starving for touch, starving to be seen, your heart will reach for even the smallest flicker of warmth. And warmth was exactly what I had found. It didn't happen all at once. It was small things at first. A brush of hands when passing plates. An extra moment where our fingers lingered. His skin warm, my breath catching. I'd pull away too quickly, pretending I hadn't noticed. But my heart would pound loud in my chest, the sound deafening in the quiet of the house. At dinner, the way he looked at me changed. It wasn't obvious. It wasn't deliberate. But it was there, a softness, and something deeper beneath it. Our eyes would meet and hold, just a beat too long. I'd feel my cheeks flush. I'd busy myself with my glass, my fork, anything to break the pull. But the worst part? I started looking for it, waiting for it, craving it. And then came the night of the movie. It was late. My husband was out of town again. The house echoed with its emptiness. David came downstairs. He looked tired, worn. I asked if he wanted to watch something, anything to fill the silence. He agreed. We sat on the couch. The space between us felt charged thick. At first, we kept a careful distance. But as the movie played, the hours wore on. I shifted. He shifted. And somehow, he ended up beside me, head resting near my lap. His breathing slowed, deepened. He'd fallen asleep. I sat frozen, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. My pulse betrayed me, each second stretched unbearably. My fingers itched to brush his hair, to feel some part of him beneath my touch. I hated myself for the thought, but the ache was louder than reason. I stayed like that for what felt like forever, watching him sleep, memorizing the lines of his face in the dim light. When he finally stirred and sat up, murmuring an apology, I forced a smile. But inside, I was shaking. That night, I couldn't sleep. My body burned with guilt and longing. I wanted to stop. I wanted to be stronger. But the next day, it was as if something inside me had already given way. And then came the moment that broke everything. It was late. Another restless night. I went downstairs for water. The kitchen lights were off, but I heard soft movement. I found him there, shirtless, searching the fridge, unaware of my presence. He turned, startled when he saw me. I should have left. I should have said goodnight. But instead, I stood there, watching him, needing something I couldn't name. I noticed the dessert I had made earlier, forgotten on the counter. My voice felt foreign when I spoke. Would you like to taste it? The words came out soft, measured, dangerous. He hesitated, then nodded. I dipped my finger into the dessert, slow, deliberate, and held it out. His eyes locked on mine. No words, no questions. Just a silent understanding that neither of us dared to speak. And then, his lips closed over my skin. Warm, gentle. His breath fanned across my hand. The room seemed to spin, the floor tilting beneath me. In that instant, the moment snapped, and so did I. I pulled my hand back too quickly, heart racing. He stepped away, the air between us thick with everything unsaid. We didn't speak. Couldn't. I turned and fled the room, my pulse thrumming through every vein. Upstairs, in the darkness, I pressed trembling fingers to my lips, trying to erase the memory, trying to silence the hunger that now consumed me whole. The next morning, I told myself it was done, that I would pull back, that nothing more would happen. But my resolve was paper-thin. I spent the day in a fog. Every room held the echo of that moment. The warmth of his breath, the weight of his eyes. My hands shook as I folded laundry, as I cleaned the counters. I couldn't erase it. I didn't want to. By late afternoon, I'd already given in to the ache. My fingers hovered over my phone. My heart pounded as I typed the words. Movie again tonight? I stared at the message, thumb trembling. I should have deleted it. I should have walked away. But instead, I hit send. His reply came minutes later. Sure. Simple. Harmless. But the space between those lines crackled with everything we both knew. That evening, I dressed carefully. Soft sweater. Loose pants. Casual, but not careless. I caught my reflection before going downstairs. The woman staring back looked nothing like the wife I once was. I didn't know whether to pity her or fear her. David was already on the couch when I entered. The movie played low in the background. He looked up as I approached. Eyes dark, unreadable. I forced a smile, sat beside him. At first, we kept the distance. A polite buffer. An invisible wall we both pretended to respect. But walls weaken when the heart betrays you. An accidental touch, my hand brushing his as I reached for the remote. A sharp intake of breath. A glance that lingered too long. And then, it wasn't accidental anymore. His arm brushed against mine, deliberate this time. My body tensed, but I didn't move away. I couldn't. The movie blurred. The room shrank. All I could hear was the thud of my heart, the shallow pull of my breath. And then, his voice. Soft. Fragile. Are you sure? I didn't answer with words. I couldn't. But my eyes, they spoke louder than anything I could have said. And in that look, every line I had sworn never to cross blurred into nothing. He leaned in slowly. No rush. No force. As though giving me time to stop him. But I didn't. When his lips met mine, the world tilted. Warm. Trembling. Forbidden. My fingers clutched the fabric of his sleeve. For one desperate second, I let go of every thought, every consequence. Just one kiss. Stolen. Shattered. Enough to unravel everything. I was the one who pulled away first, breathless, eyes wide. The space between us felt too loud, too bright. He looked at me, waiting. But I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. I stood, whispered a broken goodnight, and fled upstairs, pulse racing, skin burning with shame and longing. Alone in the darkness, I pressed trembling fingers to my lips. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't erase the taste of that moment. And I knew then nothing would ever be the same. Don't miss what happened next. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. The rest is a confession I never thought I'd share. The next morning, the house felt colder. I came downstairs early, hoping, foolishly, that I might beat the awkwardness to the punch. But when I reached the kitchen, David was already there. He didn't look up. Not once. His shoulders stiff, movements mechanical. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came. My throat tightened, a lump lodged deep and unmoving. The weight between us was unbearable, thick, suffocating. Every glance we didn't exchange screamed the truth louder than any confession could. I poured coffee with shaking hands, staring down at the dark swirl as though it held some kind of answer. He left first. Quietly. No goodbye. Just the soft click of the front door, and then, silence. When my husband came home later that evening, he didn't notice. Or if he did, he didn't care enough to ask. Dinner was eaten in silence. My husband scrolled through his phone while I picked at my food, stomach twisting. Across from him, the empty seat where David usually sat burned in my vision. In the days that followed, David barely came home. When he did, it was late, footsteps careful, voice muted. No more movie nights. No more shared meals. Only distance and a hollow ache where something dangerous had briefly bloomed. I buried myself in chores, scrubbing floors that weren't dirty, organizing drawers that didn't need it. Anything to drown the noise in my head. But it wasn't enough. Every sound startled me. Every creak in the floorboards made my heart race. Every silence screamed the truth. I caught myself listening for his voice, waiting for the sound of keys in the lock. And when it came, brief, fleeting, I'd freeze, breath shallow, caught between wanting him to stay and praying he wouldn't. Then one night, it ended. I found the note on the counter. Just a scrap of paper, folded once. I unfolded it with trembling fingers. The words were simple. Final. I'm moving back to campus early. Take care. That was it. No explanation. No goodbye. Just an ending written in ink too sharp to hold. I stared at that note until dawn, sitting alone at the kitchen table. The words blurred through my tears, but the meaning never changed. My heart cracked, but it deserved to. And as the first light broke through the windows, I knew what had begun with one small taste had ended with a silence far louder than any scream. Was it loneliness that betrayed me? Or something darker, something I'm too afraid to name? I've asked myself that question 1,000 times. In the quiet hours, in the dead of night, in the soft click of the front door that no longer opens for him, I used to believe I was strong. That I could endure the cold distance of my marriage. That I could fill the emptiness with routines and small, hollow victories, clean floors, folded linens, perfect meals laid out for a man who never noticed. But strength fades. And the heart is a greedy thing when it's starving. When David looked at me, I saw something I hadn't felt in years: warmth. Presence. The ache of being seen, not as a wife, not as a mother figure, but as a woman. And maybe that is where the danger lived all along, not in the moment itself, but in the hunger it answered. I didn't mean to cross that line. God knows I didn't. But meaning doesn't erase damage. I look at my reflection now, fractured. A woman I barely recognize stares back. There was a time when that mirror held hope. Now it holds questions I can't answer. A husband who no longer sees me. A young man who made me feel alive and ashamed. Would you have done differently? If you'd stood where I stood, if you'd known that ache, that deep, gnawing void, would you have been stronger? Or are some hungers too strong to fight? I tell myself it was loneliness. That it wasn't love or lust or desire. Just need. A simple, devastating need to be seen. To be touched. To matter. But does that make it better? Or worse? Some days, I want to believe it was human. Understandable. Forgivable. Other days, I know better. I carry this with me now in the quiet between conversations. In the moments when my husband's voice feels miles away. In the empty chair at the dinner table that no one speaks of anymore. And in my heart,